This is a Weedeater. It's a 1977 model 507. It's called the Needle. It's 38 years old. You take this apart, you go through and you undo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Phillips screws. This will pop off. This unit went under water in Katrina, so it's never been really worked on. Never had a problem. It's just the bearing here got a little bit kind of gooped up, so I'm taking this and getting the crud that's off this here. It's got a bunch of fishing line and junk off here, and then over here on the armature I use some and I'm going to use some 600 grit to kind of just polish up the piece. This one underwater Katrina's got a bunch of saltwater corrosion on here, and the bearing in the back here just kind of was getting kind of making some noise, so I decided to take this apart. And while I'm at it, I decided just to polish up the armature there. Still got a lot of brush on it, and then took some motor oil here and put it here in the oilite bearing. That's some Mobile 1. It's got a Brown's bushing in there. This is a DC motor in the sense that it's got hole pieces in here, permanent magnet, and then it runs on DC, and then through this wire there's a rectifier in here that takes the AC with one diode, and then it puts a half wave DC into this. Now to get this apart, what I had to do is peel the label back, and I just left it on for good measure, and I could get the two halves apart. And this is the bearing that was a little bit frozen up. I want to use some thicker oil on there. I don't want to go too crazy on it because it'll get, this top end can screw up the brush area, and that had a bunch of crap there on top, and I got it off. The earlier ones I just used before I started the video look like this. So I've been soaking some oil in there. That's just some 10W30. It doesn't really, I prefer to use something fairly thick in there. That'll weep into the oilite bearing. And this had a whole bunch of corrosion crap on it. On here. Who knows how long this will run. It's got dirt down inside here I've kind of swept out, but that's basically what I'm going to do, and put the cover back on here. These have been moved. Here's some of the screws here, the dirt and the Phillips, so I couldn't tighten them up, so finally got them out. It's got a bunch of Katrina crud inside there, so now I thought there wasn't, I lost the screw, but I found it, so it was still in there. I was going to borrow one from this other side, that's why I stopped the camera. They were in there, just I couldn't get the hex, the Phillips, into the darn head of the screw. There's junk down in there from going under salt water. If it doesn't engage there, it's better. strange. Had this metal probe looking for the screw on the grass. It turned out it was still in there. And this is the head that goes on here. The hex fits on here. Put this up here. This tightens up. Now this is an old one. There's no bump on this. When you're done, you just go through and hold it like that. Of course. I'll let this be a little bit shorter, just to make sure this thing powers up. Here we go. That's the Needle 507 from 1977. The manual's from 1976. Crap off here and try to knead the label on. It's probably not going to stick, but that's the model 507 electric Weedeater from 1977. Made in USA. This one went underwater in Katrina, so it worked up to a little earlier today and was getting kind of screwy sounding, so I decided to redo the grease on the oil the top bearing, which was getting kind of goofed up. Now the correct way to have the spool on here is not the way I have it. You're supposed to have it like this. I just found that real quick. So if you want it like this, once this wears down, you move this up to a different catch. There's no bump on this one. Again, these three things line up with the slots. I didn't have it set right a minute ago.